Well, hello, beloved. Today I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. I mentioned it, I think, last couple of months or so about Nehemiah. Um, his book, or his kind of a destiny, talks about him as the repairer of breaches, exactly like Isaiah 58. Because he is the one that the Lord used to go and repair the wall around Jerusalem. So Jerusalem was destroyed by Babylon. So he had this heart for Jerusalem, and he went back, and what he started to do was interesting, because I do feel this calling to repair breaches. And the Lord talked to me a few years ago about looking for builders. So that's kind of a parallel work and word. So I'm going to do a little teaching about Nehemiah's life. You can always read the book. It's not that big, but I'll just take few things from there. So here's how he was looking for the builders that will help him to rebuild the walls. Nehemiah 2:16, the officials did not know where I had gone or what I was doing. So he went to visit. He had a letter from the king that sent him, and but he went kind of in a hiding. Didn't quite tell the leaders of that territory. The leaders probably they were put by Babylon to govern, the governors to govern that place. But they didn't care for Israel. They didn't care for the people of God. They care for themselves. But Nehemiah cared for the people of God. So the officials did not know where I had gone or what I was doing, because as yet I hadn't said nothing to the Jews or the priests or nobles or officials or any others who would be doing the work. So that was the inspection, in kind of the hiding, in secret, of the work that has to be done. Then I said to them, you see the trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. I also told them about the gracious hand of my God on me and what the king had said to me. They replied, let us start rebuilding. So they began this good work. So looking for the builders, it's trusting that the Lord placed on some people's hearts the same work. So when you say, come, let us build, they say, we're ready. That's how you know the time is right and the Lord prepared that. It's not a convincing, it's not like, yeah, I think the Lord wants to do this or that. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not called for that. That's not what. Those are not builders. The builders that the Lord gives you, they are ready. One mind, one accord, agreeing on the timing. Okay? So, because this was what the Lord wanted to do, the enemy comes against them. So I'll show you through the book some of the tactics of the enemy. And if you are a builder, or the Lord placed this on your heart to do something, maybe in the place where you are, in the region, in the country, then you'll face, or you already faced, some of these enemy's tactics. Okay? So listen. The first tactics are intimidation and threats. Well, what do you expect from the devil? Nehemiah 2:19. But when Sanballat the Horonite, Tobiah the Ammonite official, and Geshem the Arab heard about it, so these were the governors, the leaders of the place. Here's how they start with. They mocked and ridiculed us. What is this you're doing? They asked. Are you rebelling against the king? In different words, some words we hear today, when you go with the new creation and this, after sons of God, after many sons to glory, with the clear mission from the Lord, the Father's heart, looking for sons. We hear this. Who do you think you are? Do you try to change things? You come against what is established already? You might hear that sometimes, right? That's so good that in here we see what the Lord, what the Spirit of God taught Nehemiah. And in verse 20 is knowing that you are called for a time such as this. And this is so important, to know that you know that you know. So the solution to these threats and intimidation is in verse 20. I answered them by saying, the God of heaven will give us success. We, his servants, will start rebuilding, but as for you, you have no share in Jerusalem or any claim or historic right to it. Stay where you are, do whatever you want. We are called and sent by the Father to do this. That's it. We don't need your help. We don't need your agreement. You do whatever you are called to do, but we will do this. Okay? That's because they are threatening you. They are coming against. Lots of people will come, and believers will come and try to help, or at least stay away from what the Lord wants to do. But some of them, that they come straight from the enemy, will come with these tactics. The second enemy tactics, it's to despise you and to try to discourage what you're doing. Nehemiah 4. It so happened when Sanballat heard that we are rebuilding the wall. Initially they tried to get you not to start. Now when they see that you are serious enough and you start, when they see you are rebuilding, he was furious and very indignant and mocked the Jews. He spoke before the brethren and the army of Samaria and said, what are these feeble Jews doing? Will they fortify themselves? Would they offer sacrifices? What? What do you care about this? Will they complete it in a day? Will they revive the stones from the heaps of rubbish that are burnt? Now Tobiah the Ammonite beside him, and he said, whatever they build, even if a fox goes up, he will break down their stone wall. Ha ha ha. That's nothing. It's not going to stand. Whatever they do, it's so weak, and it's not working. kind of like, look at yourselves. You are not rich, you are not schooled, you are not famous, you don't have a name, you don't have the money, you are not trained. What can you build? No, that's the enemy speaking. Sometimes you hear it. You will give up before you start. You have no chance to finish. Now that's in our words kind of what they were doing. The solution is so clear in one mind. See, that's why you're looking for the builders that can be one mind with you in achieving the purpose, in the prayer of intercession. In Nehemiah 4:4, hear, O God, for we are despised. Turn their reproach on their own heads and give them as plunder to a land of captivity. Verse 6, so we built the wall, and the entire wall was joined together up to half of its height. And here's the secret. For the people had a mind to work. One mind to work. So important. When that ridiculing and discouragement, despise comes from the enemy, you stick to the plan with one mind and keep going. The third of enemy's tactics is to plan the attack. It's like, oh, okay, so you want to fight? We'll show you the fight. So the enemy is planning and he's letting you know, hey, we're coming against you. You'll see what's going to happen. Nehemiah 4:7. Now it happened when Sanballat heard that the walls of Jerusalem were being restored and the gaps were being to be closed. I mean, we are really doing what God called us to do. That they became very angry, and all of them conspired together to come attack Jerusalem and create confusion. That's totally the enemy, isn't it? And our adversary said, they will neither know nor see anything till we come into their midst and kill them and cause the work to cease. But they let us know that they were going to do that. That's so weird. So what's the solution? It's the strategic defense. It's in a special way, the defense and the strategic encouragement. Look what happened here in verse 13. Therefore, I positioned men behind the lower parts of the wall at the openings, and I set the people according to their families with their swords, their spears, and their bows. And I looked and arose and said to the nobles, to the leaders, and to the rest of the people, do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, great and awesome, and fight for your brethren, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your houses. This is so powerful, right? And the outcome in verse 15, and it happened when our enemies heard that it was known to us and that God had brought their plot to nothing. That's so powerful. It's just threats. The enemy has just a big mouth. That all of us returned to the wall, everyone to his work. So it was from that time on. Half of my servants worked at constructions, while the other half held the spears, the shields, the bows, and the armor. And the leaders were behind all the house of Judah. Those who built on the wall and those who carried burdens loaded themselves so that with one hand they worked at construction and with the other held a weapon. Wow. No, this reminds me when Jesus gave that preparation parable, he talked about building a wall and counting the right, making the right accounting. Make sure you can finish the wall and then go into war. So it was a building and a warfare. That's what he was presenting that. And in both examples, he draws this conclusion. Luke 14:33. Therefore, in the same manner, every one of you who does not, in self-renunciation, lose yourself, bid farewell to all his possessions, is not able to be my disciple. That's probably Wu's translation. He bid farewell. He bid farewell to all his possessions. If anything can be attacked, it will be. But if you gave everything to him, to the Lord, the enemy cannot have anything. He cannot even come close to the Lord. If everything is in the Lord's hands. So there is a fourth enemy tactics. I want you to pay attention to this, because this is sometimes the trickiest one. And basically the tactic is, let's talk. Let's talk about. Come on, I'll buy you coffee. Let's meet. You know, I mean, come on, you are a nice person. We are nice people. We are understanding. Let's have a talk. So look at this, Nehemiah 6:1 and 2. It happened, and Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem, and the rest of our enemies heard that I had rebuilt the wall and that there were no breaks left in it. They sent to me saying, listen to this, come, let us meet together among the villages in the plain of Ono. But they thought to do me harm. They go for the leader. When they try to attack and do this and scare you, different things that threaten, there's families there, there's kids and all these things. But now they go for Nehemiah. Come and let's talk. I mean, we can try to make some sense of it. We can make a compromise. But they thought to do me harm, says Nehemiah. And this is the answer that he gave. I want you to remember this, write it down. And every time the world, the devil, the enemy, the past, it's sending you all kind of traps, tries to drag you in. Okay? I don't know if that's an old kind of friend or some type of addiction or sin that's trying to lure you in and bring you back. Well, let's talk. I mean, I understand you don't like this anymore, but I want you to have this answer right there in your mind, in your mouth. Nehemiah 6:3. So I sent messengers to them saying, I'm doing a great work, so I cannot come down. Hallelujah. I cannot come down. Why should the work cease while I leave it and go down to you? I cannot come down. Depression, oppression, the valleys of the soul, emotional stuff comes and come on, maybe it's too much, maybe you took too much, maybe it's too hard, and let's talk about the thought comes straight from the enemy. I cannot come down. I'm not talking to you. I want you to learn that answer, because this is the authority that he gave you, so you can continue in what the Lord wants to do with you. Learn that. You are an overcomer, but stand your position unmovable.